one last meeting. Can you tell something about the parabola? Arakan, Arakan Von, Arakan. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Arakan is absent.
Yes, sir.
Arakan, is that you?
Yes, sir.
Can you tell something about the parabola?
A parabola is a set of coplanar points po, sir.
Only set of coplanar points, no other information about parabola.
It is a set of all coplanar points that are equidistant from a fixed line and a fixed point.
How will you call that fixed point? And how about the fixed line? What are those?
Ako pa po, sir.
Yes, yes.
The fixed line is called directrix of the parabola, and the fixed point is called the focus.
Very good. Okay, thank you. By just looking at the equation, how can we determine if the parabola is open to right and open to left? By just looking at the equation, what would be our clue? Ibrahim.
Hello?
Yes, can hear
Am
you.
I audible po?
Yes.
Can you repeat the question, sir?
By just looking at the equation, how can we determine if the parabola is open to right or open to left? By just looking at the equation, what would be our clue?
If the P is less than 0, the parabola opens to the left. And if the P... the equation, sir?
Yes, by
Is
just
it
looking at the
y squared equals 4px?
in other words, what would be our clue? What should be
The
our
y squared, sir.
Okay, very good. If y is raised to the second power, then that would be our clue that the graph of the parabola is open to right or open to left. And already answered that when the value of p is positive, then the parabola is open to right, and when p is negative, then the graph of a parabola is open to left. How about if the parabola that, by the way, that was Ibrahim? Ibrahim, ikaw yung
Hello,
nag-answer.
sir?
Ikaw yung nag-answer kanina?
Yes po.
Okay. How about if the graph is open upward and downward? By just looking at the equation, what would be our clue? Mangkabong. Mangkabong. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Mangkabong is absent. How about Nueva España? Nueva España. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Nueva España is absent. Suryaga.
If x is raised to the power of 2, then we could say that the parabola will either open downward or upward.
Okay, then how can we determine if it is upward or downward? Please add Suryaga.
If based on the equation po.
No. Just elaborate your answer. Your answer was already correct that when x is raised to the second power, di ba? So how can we determine? Dagdagan lang natin. If it is upward, then what would be the condition? If it is downward, then what would be the condition?
Okay. So if p is less than or is negative, then the parabola will open downward, and then if p is positive, then the parabola will open upward.
Very good. I think those are the basic concepts that we need to remember about parabola. And of course, you need to familiarize the guides that were shown in the table dun sa ating module. So for now, we'll learn about another conic section, which is ellipse. So pay attention, then try to check if what would be the clues now, new clues for us to remember if we are going to graph or answer problems related to ellipse. Can you see my screen?
Not yet po, sir. Visible na po.
Thank you. Ellipse. Definition of ellipse. Can you hear the narration?
Yes, sir.
An ellipse is a set of all coplanar points such that the sum of its distances from two fixed points is constant. The fixed points are called the foci of the ellipse. An illustration of ellipse and its parts. An ellipse has two axes of symmetry. Each of these axes is important when dealing with ellipse. The longer axis is called the major axis, and the shorter axis is called the minor axis. The major axis contains the foci. Consequently, the foci are inside the ellipse. The intersection of two axes is called the center of the ellipse. The center is the midpoint between the two foci, and also the midpoint between the two vertices. The ellipse intersects the major axis in 2 points called the vertices of the ellipse. These vertices are the endpoints of the major axis. A segment passing through a focus of the ellipse that is perpendicular to the major axis is called a latus rectum. A line outside the ellipse that is parallel to the minor axis and has less than or the same distance from a vertex as the focus is the directrix. Since there are two foci, there are also two directrices. Ellipse with center at 0, 0. Find the coordinates of the foci vertices, the endpoints of the major axis, minor axis, and the latus rectum whose center is at 0, 0. Draw the ellipse, its foci, and directrices. The given equation is y squared over 36 plus x squared over 20 is equal to 1. If we're going to compare the given equation to our guide, looking at the table in column 2 and in column 3, there are two equations in standard form. So our example is similar to y squared over a squared plus x squared over b squared is equal to 1. So from here we can say that a squared is equal to 36. So therefore a, if we're going to extract the square root, a is equal to 6. Then b squared is equal to 20. So if we're going to extract the root, this is b is equal to square root of 4 times 5. Then b is equal to 2 square root of 5. Then to find C is equal to the square root of A squared minus B squared. So this is A, A squared is 36, B squared is 20. So we have 36 minus 20 is 16. So C is equal to 4. So we have the value of A, which is 6. B is equal to 2 square root of 5. And C is equal to 4. So let us now find what are asked. First is the foci. For the coordinates of the foci, our guide is 0, positive, and negative C. So, therefore, our foci is 0, C is 4, then the other point is 0, negative 4. For the vertices, the guide for our vertices is 0, positive, negative A. So therefore we have 0, A is 6, and 0, negative 6. So we're done with the foci, we're done with vertices. Endpoints of the major axis. Endpoints of the major axis. So our guide for the endpoints of the major axis is 0, positive, and negative A. So endpoints of the major axis and the vertices are just the same. So we have 0, 6, and 0, negative 6. Next, endpoints of minor axis. Endpoints of the minor axis. The guide is positive, negative B, 0. So therefore, the answer is 2 square root of 5, 0, and negative 2 square root of 5, 0. Next, endpoints of the latus rectum. Endpoints of the latus rectum. So our guide for the endpoints of the latus rectum is positive, negative B square over A, negative C, the first pair of point, and positive, negative B square over A, positive C. So for the endpoints of the latus rectum, first pair, so B square is 2 square root of 5. So to simplify B square, so this is 20, negative 20 over A, which is 6. And 20 over 6 can be simplified as, so 20 over 6 can be simplified as 10 over 3. So we can change this as negative 10 over 3, then negative c, negative 4, and the other one is positive 10 over 3 and negative 4. And the other endpoint is negative 10 over 3, positive 4. Dito na tayo. And 10 over 3, positive 4. For the directrix, the guide is y is equal to positive and negative a squared over c, which is y is equal to, first a squared is 36 and c is 4. So if we're going to simplify this, y is equal to 36 divided by 4 is 9, and the other one is negative 9. So these are the directrices. So let us now plot the points in our Cartesian plane. The vertices, of course, the center is at 0, 0. Dito yung center. Then, vertices is 0, positive 6, and 0, negative 6. 0, positive 6, and 0, negative 6. Then, the foci is 0, 4, and 0, negative 4. So 0, 4, and 0, negative 4. Then endpoints of the major axis. So the major axis in the vertices are just the same. So 0, 6, and 0, negative 6. Endpoints of the minor axis, the shorter axis. So that is positive 2 square root of 5, 0, and negative 2 square root of 5, 0. In the value of positive 2 square root of 5 or square root of 20 is 4.47 something. So, 4.47. Hindi siya dapat aabot sa 5. So, 4.47 between 4 and 5. Okay, dito. Then, we can connect endpoints of the latus rectum. So, the endpoints of the latus rectum based on our solution. By the way, I based the answers of this based from our previous solution. Dito. So, one endpoint of the latus rectum is negative 10 over 3, negative 4. So, 10 over 3, ito dito banda, 10 over 3 is 3.33. So 10 over 3 is 3.33. So y is negative 4, 3.33. So dito banda. Then we also have positive 10 over 3. So 3 point something, 4. Then the other endpoint of the latus rectum is negative 10 over 3, then positive 4. Positive 4. The other one is 10 over 3, so positive, then positive 4. So we can now connect. So dapat tatama siya. Tatama siya sa lahat ng points. So tatama sa latus rectum. Can do this better using the graphing paper. Okay. So our graph would look like this. So we have the latus rectum. Okay. For to draw the directrices. So the directrix, ito, y is equal to 9 and y is equal to negative 9. So y 6, 7, 8, 9. So dito dapat ang isang directrix. So this is y is equal to 9. Then the other directrix is negative 9. Y is equal to negative 9. So this is y is equal to negative 9. So this is our graph. We have the vertices. We have the foci. Then endpoints of the major axis, the longer axis. Then endpoints of the minor axis. Ito yung minor axis natin. Then the latus rectum, endpoints of the latus rectum, we have two pairs. So of course the center is 0. And we have the directrices. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Before we proceed to the next example, I think meron ba tayong tanong? Question so far?
None, sir.
Okay, sige, thank you. You have to, for the, what's this? Important things that we need to remember here, because the graph may sometimes, what's this? For easier way to remember the graph, if it is patayo ba or pahiga, then try to observe the arrangement of the variable, the x squared and y squared, and as well as the values of a and b. So From there, we can determine if it is patayo or pahiga. So for the first example here, di ba? Y square over 36 plus x square over 20 is equal to 1. Then our A square is 36 and B square is equal to 20. Try to observe closely how the variables and the constants or the values of A, B, and C were arranged. And if we're going to, di ba, y square over A square plus x square over B square is equal to 1. From there, look at the graph. If you're going to look at the graph, of course, this is not really as perfect or as good if you are going to use here the graphing paper. But from here, we can have the idea that the graph is patayo siya. The major axis is vertical, the major axis. Major axis is the longer axis. Is longer than the minor axis. So pag ganon, patayo siya. Okay. So tandaan natin yon. Okay. Try to check what is now the difference between the first example and this second example. Find the coordinates of the foci and vertices, the endpoints of the major axis, minor axis, and the latus rectum whose center is at 0, 0. Draw the ellipse, its foci, and the rectrices. The given equation is 9x squared plus 16y squared minus 144 is equal to 0. We are going to rewrite this in standard form. So first step is transpose the constant to the right side. So meaning we will transpose negative 144 to the right side of the equation. This will become 9x squared plus 16y squared is equal to 144. To make the equation equal to 1, we're going to divide both sides by 144. So to simplify, this is x over 16 plus y squared over 9 is equal to 1. So this is the standard form. If we're going to look at the standard form, the larger number should be the a. So therefore, this is of the form x squared over a squared plus y squared over b squared is equal to 1. So if we're going to use the table, so this is the right side. So meaning we will transpose negative 144 to the right side of the equation. This will become 9x squared plus 16y squared is equal to 144. To make the equation equal to 1, we're going to divide both sides by 144. So to simplify, this is if the equation is in general form, when we say general form, it is equal to 0. Then to change this or transpose the constant term, write those terms with variables to the left side and transpose the constant term to the right side. So that is why we have equal to 144 and make this equation equal to 1. And how to make this equation equal to 1? You need to divide this by the constant. So here in our example, the constant is 144. Then we have to divide all of the terms of our equation by 144 so that 144 over 144 is equal to 1. And of course, we will not change the value of our equation. So that is why we need to divide each of the term by 144. Is it always 144? Of course not. It will depend on the number of the value of our constant. If it is equal to 100, then divide all the terms by 100. And the purpose of that is to make the equation equal to 1. x squared over 16 plus y squared over 9 is equal to 1. So this is the standard form. If we're going to look at the standard form, the larger number should be the a. So therefore, this is of the form x squared over a squared plus y squared over b squared is equal to 1. So if we're going to use, we have here one clue that a should be greater than b. A should always be greater than b. And look at the formation now of a. It is already, or it is the denominator of x. Unlike in our first example, a is the denominator of y squared. Now compare the graph of these two examples so that later on we can have, in generalization, we can have a conclusion of when can we consider that a graph would be patayo or pahiga. Use the table as our guide. Look at the column where we have the equation x squared over a squared plus y squared over b squared is equal to 1. This is the column 2 of table 1. So you're going to use the guide of the column 2 or the guide in column 2. Let us solve now for the values of a, b, and c. So a squared is equal to 16. So therefore we can say that a is equal to 4. B squared is equal to 9. Therefore, B is equal to 3. C is equal to the square root of the larger number 16 minus 9. So this is 16 minus 9 is square root of 7. Since we cannot have a perfect root for 7, then leave our answer as it is. So A is 4, B is 3, and C is square root of 7. From the values of A, B, and C, so we can now solve for the foci, coordinates of the foci using our guide. The guide is positive negative C 0. So therefore, this is negative square root of 7, 0, in positive square root of 7, 0. Then the coordinates of the vertices. The guide is positive and negative a 0. So therefore, negative 4, 0, and positive 4, 0. Endpoints of the major axis. Endpoints of major axis. The guide is positive and negative a 0. So therefore, same as the vertices, negative 4, 0, and 4, positive 4, 0. Endpoints of minor axis. The guide is 0, positive, negative b. So we have 0, b is negative 3, and 0, positive 3. Endpoints of latus rectum. The guide is negative c, positive negative b square over a, and positive c, positive negative b square over a. So, endpoints, negative c, negative square root of 7, negative, our b square is 9, then a is 4. So the other point is negative 7, positive 9 over 4. The second endpoint is positive 7, negative 9 over 4, and positive 7, positive 9 over 4. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Corrections here in endpoints of latus rectum. It should be negative square root of 7. Then all of the 7 here should be square root. So dapat meron siyang square root of 7. So dapat negative square root of 7. Then sa baba, square root of 7, square root of 7. Ha? Please check if you're doing your writing your notes now, then please add a radical sign. So dapat square root of 7 yan. Na mali lang. Naintindihan?
Opo.
Yes, sir.
po.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Endpoints of the latus rectum. For the directrix, our guide is x is equal to positive negative a square over c. So this is a square is 9. A square is 16. Then c is square root of 7. We're going to rationalize this, multiply both numerator and denominator by square root of 7. So this is 16 square root of 7 over 7. So the direct recess are, one is x is equal to negative 16 square root of 7 over 7, and x is equal to positive 16 square root of 7 over 7. Let us now plot the points. I have here the solution, yung kanina. Then as our guide. So for the center, of course, 0, 0. Then the vertices, 0, 6 and 0, negative 6. So 0, 6. Okay, ulit. I think mali yung nakuha kong picture. So, ulit. Our center is 0, 0. The vertices is negative 4. Ito. Negative 4 and 4, 0. So, negative 4 and 4, 0. Then, the foci is negative 7, 0 and positive negative square root of 7, 0 and positive square root of 7, 0. And the value of square root of 7 is 2.6. So negative 2.6, 0, then positive 2.60. So these are the foci. Then the vertices, pareho lang sa the endpoints of the major axis, pareho lang sa vertices, which are negative 4, 0 and positive 4, 0. Then minor axis is 0, negative 3. 0, negative 3 and 0, positive 3. Endpoints of latus rectum. One is negative square root of 7, then negative 9 over 4, this one. So endpoints of latus rectum, we're going to plot this. Negative square root of 7 is 2.6. So x is 2.6, then 9.4 is negative 9.4 is 2.5. 2.5. The other one, 2.5. Then 2.5 also. 2.5 and 2.5. So we can now connect. Okay. So this is our ellipse. We can now have the endpoints of the latus rectum. Connect the endpoints of latus rectum. So these are the latus rectum. And for the directrix, the value of the directrix is x, or the equation of the directrix. One is negative 16 over square root of 7 over 7. And the other one is x is equal to 16. The positive value of it, 16 over square root of 7 over 7. And to simplify 16 square root of 7 over 7, the value is 6.05. So x is 6 point for the directrix. X is equal to negative 6.05 and x is equal to positive 6.05. So x is negative 6.05. Ito banda. Lampas konti sa 6. Then dito lampas konti sa 6. So this is our directrix. Okay. So this is x is equal to the equation of the directrix, 16, negative 16 square root of 7 over 7, and this is x is equal to positive 16 square root of 7 over 7. Question? Question? Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, sige. Thank you. So what are the things, yung mga simple but important things that we need to remember here in this lesson? Of course, the first, that A is greater than B. So if A is in the denominator of y squared, then the graph is patayo. When we say patayo, the major axis or longer axis is vertical, while the minor axis or the shorter axis is horizontal. But when A is in the denominator of x squared, then the graph is pahiga. Or the longer axis or the major axis is horizontal, while the minor or the shorter axis is vertical. The two examples are only for ellipse with center at 0, 0. or the origin of the Cartesian plane. Tomorrow, we will have the continuation where the vertices are any point on the Cartesian plane. To say it's not 0/0, or it's not 0, 0. So what would be the formula? Then of course, is it still true that if a is in the denominator of x squared, then still pahiga, or if a is in the denominator of y squared, still patayo? So for now, yun lang muna. May tanong pa ba or wala na?
Wala na po, sir.
This is Dagalea. Alright. Can you still see my screen or hindi na?
Hindi na po.
sir.
Can you do the screenshot, Atari? Atari Sharif? 1, 2.
Yes.
Atari Sharif, can you do the screenshot?
No po. Di po ako naka-PC po.
Sige. Marbelia? Marbelia,
Sorry. Yes, sir.
can you do the screenshot?
Yes, sir.
Again? Can you
Yes,
do this? Okay, sige. Turn on your cam for, please post this between 2 to 2:10. Give us the signal.
Yes, sir. Wait.